Welcome back to Upside Down Data. We need to talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, as you're probably aware, Bitcoin after the election is now trading at new all time highs. And that's got a lot of the attention. All time highs are important, and it's important to watch Bitcoin do this. Bitcoin tends to lead the crypto space. If it's breaking out to new highs, that is a very good sign for the rest of the market. But one thing that's been really interesting that's been happening is what Ethereum has done. Ethereum has actually been outperforming Bitcoin in this move. Ethereum, coming out of the election, is up roughly 30% from that event. And this is important because Ethereum had been left for dead by a lot of investors. They looked at it and said, what has it done recently? It's fallen off so dramatically. It's been going sideways. Why would we ever buy this? And especially when people looked at the value of Ethereum relative to Bitcoin, that's what I'm showing you here. This is the price of Ethereum divided by the price of Bitcoin. So if this is going up, it means that Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. If it's going down, it means Bitcoin is outperforming Ethereum. And what people were looking at was this massive downtrend. Really, ever since late 2022, Ethereum has just been bleeding against Bitcoin. So when people looked at Ethereum, they were just asking, why would I buy this instead of Bitcoin? Why would I buy this instead of something like Solana or other assets that have really moved? What is the point? Now, what's notable is that it is now moving. And so the big question is this finally the bottom for the ETH Bitcoin valuation that we're seeing here? This rising in this outperformance by Ethereum, does this actually mark a bottom? So that's what I want to talk about. And what's really nice is that we actually have a risk model that can help us answer this question. So this is on our website, partydigital.io. This is a model that you can create using some other inputs. Won't go into the details here. Clarity Digital Pro members have seen us talk about this many times, but importantly, it acts like any of the other risk models that we have. High values mean high risk, low values mean low risk. And the main difference here is instead of it being against the dollar, it's Ethereum against Bitcoin. So when is Ethereum high risk against Bitcoin? When is Ethereum low risk against Bitcoin? And you see this does a very good job of identifying these high risk periods and also these low risk periods in the ETH Bitcoin ratio. So when we see where we are coming out of, we're coming out of a very low risk zone here for this ratio, really a point that hasn't been hit that often. And generally speaking, in the past, when you've gotten down there, you've been near the bottom or at the bottom of this ratio. Maybe not exactly there, but pretty close. And that is a good sign that if we do see Ethereum continue to show strength, we're coming out of this really low risk period. It could have more room to run. It might actually be able to start a sustained uptrend against Bitcoin. Now, I don't think it would be straight up. I think what's probably going to happen is, like in prior market cycles, you're going to see things trade off. You're going to see, for example, most likely, if things play out the way they have in the past, Bitcoin might be the one that really leads the way into a more parabolic phase. If we're going on to the full final stages of a bull market, you'd expect a big parabolic move. You might expect Bitcoin to lead that because it has done that in past cycles. It did that certainly in 2020, 2021. Also did that back here in the 2016, 2017 market. Seems like a reasonable expectation. Wouldn't have to, but that would be a reasonable expectation. It's already doing that. It's already leading the way. It's at all-time highs. Ethereum isn't. But then when you might think is that Ethereum will then play catch up, and there might be some trading off and on where Bitcoin runs and Ethereum runs and Bitcoin runs, so on and so forth, all as part of that bigger move. But doing that out of this really low risk point is a hopeful sign for Ethereum. And importantly, this isn't just hopeful for Ethereum. When the ETH Bitcoin ratio goes up, that tends to be the moments when altcoins also perform very well. When this is going down, that tends to be when altcoins aren't doing well, and Ethereum is just basically getting stronger and stronger against any alt that you compare it to. It's either bleeding less than them or it's running up while the altcoin is bleeding down. But in these kind of rare, shorter term moments, these rather short-lived moments in the cycle, when you have this moving up, that is a very good sign for alt. So this is not just relevant to Ethereum, a good sign for it. It could be a great sign for altcoins in general, that maybe they'll actually be able to have some nice moves after this horrible bear market and then this sideways point where they were just bleeding against Bitcoin the whole way. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. And you can also just see it when you look at risk relative to the dollar. So this is the Bitcoin long-term UDPI. So this is one of our risk models. So higher values, again, high risk, lower values, low risk, but this is again against the dollar, not against another crypto asset. see that Bitcoin is just below neutral now on its long-term risk. So still has a lot of room to work with through the upside. And if we are about to enter this type of thing, this part of the cycle, then you might expect quite a bit more room to work with to the upside and for this entire scale to be in play. But you compare that to Ethereum, and Ethereum is currently sitting lower on its risk against the dollar. So again, kind of goes back to what we were talking about, that on the pair, low risk, and also it just hasn't gone as far as fast as Bitcoin has, which is expected. It hasn't gotten to no all-time highs yet. Bitcoin has. So where does this kind of leave us in the broader market cycle? Well, I think we're really tracking pretty closely what we've done before. Now, what's a little bit different about this cycle is that we kind of rallied up, then we had this long sideways before potentially being able to continue. That's not really what we saw, for example, here, where Bitcoin went, and then when it broke all-time highs, just immediately teleported up to significantly higher. Here we broke prior highs, had to consolidate for a while before breaking out. And so it's a little bit different from that. It's also different than back here in 2017. Similar thing here where when we broke out to new all-time highs, we really made it. Maybe some similarity, we spent some time here, but not nearly as long. So it'll be interesting to watch how that goes. But the hopeful thing would be that if during this whole consolidation, what you had was a lot of the people who were not optimistic about Bitcoin just decided to sell, and the people who bought here were looking for much higher prices, well, then you might expect there to be less sell pressure here than maybe there would have been if we just gone straight up from here, because a lot of the people who are already going to sell at prices close to this already have. You really think that someone who decided not to sell at 68K is necessarily going to say, oh, 76K, now that's the point I have to sell all my Bitcoin? I don't think so. They might sell some of their Bitcoin, but it's probably unlikely they're going to treat those levels especially different. They might be waiting for significantly higher prices before they end up pulling that trigger. And so that's the nice thing about having these long periods of consolidation. You can kind of take out a lot of that supply that's looking to sell at this general region. And then when you break above, you're left with people who were buying at that area, probably targeting much higher prices. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out, but it's certainly a great sign. And the fact that Bitcoin's doing this, but Ethereum's actually outperforming while that's happening is a great sign that we're actually potentially entering into that next phase of the cycle. That it's not just Bitcoin just beating up on everything else, Bitcoin outperforming everything else in the crypto space, but suddenly now you might have things like Ethereum and maybe even a number of other altcoins start to join the party and really run. So I think that's what most people, or a lot of people, really are looking for in the crypto space. Sure, we all want Bitcoin to do well. It's the biggest one and tends to lead the way. But where the real money tends to be made is after Bitcoin has done something like this or has been started to do something like this. That's when altcoins can go absolutely crazy. So that's why I think watching the ETH Bitcoin valuation is important, not just for Ethereum, but for the broader altcoin market. And this is a good sign so far. So of course, none of this is financial advice, and all of this depends on us not having some disaster like a global recession or some other horrible catastrophe that could derail all of this. But short of that happening, this is starting to look like a great setup, and we'll want to watch and see if this continues to track up. If it does, that's just more suggestion that altcoins could be in a really great spot, Ethereum and others included. All right, if you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and follow us over on X. A lot of updates about our models and more over there. And you go to our website, polaritydigital.io, where you see live data from our models and more, and also build your own custom models like this one here over there. A lot of flexibility.